Hi, Amy. Welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast.
Hi, Michelle. It's so good to be here and to see you.
I'm so happy. This is a long time coming. We've had a couple of these scheduled. We've
I
also
know.
been in the middle of show season. So I'm so happy that you are here with me now.
It is a pleasure to be here. And I got to tell you, I know we're both running around. So the fact that we're both just sitting here and talking to each other is just beautiful.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised you're here because New York Now is just around the corner. Like I was surprised to see you schedule this close to New York Now.
Well, we had kind of kept putting this off. I think like I kept putting it off because of my crazy schedule. And then I realized this is fun. It's fun to talk to you. And yeah, market is like, I think 13 days away right now. So just a moment of just being able to sit down and have a good conversation is very welcome.
I love that. So for people who don't know, we have Amy Loewenberg, who is marketing. Are you head of marketing for New York Now or social media marketing for New York Now?
Yeah, I'm neither. So, but I do everything. I'm just that kind of woman. No, my exact title is senior relations manager. And so technically I am that liaison between our buyers and our market. But my role has kind of morphed a little bit just because of my past, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit. But I have great relationships with a lot of our brands. So really, I want to make sure that we are bringing in the buyer community to meet with our brand community and that everybody's happy and can conduct business. And then on the other hand, on the other 15 hands, because we all do multiple jobs and wear so many hats, I do my own podcasts and my own Instagrams. And so I would say that I do relation marketing.
Yeah.
But I do not run the department or anything like that.
It seems very marketing, which is so I apologize to those.
No worries.
You interviewed me for the New York Now podcast, and now I get to turn the tables on you. And what I love is that you have a long and lengthy history in retail, and a lot of it's paper-based. So tell us a little bit about your background, and then I'm going to ask you a question because I believe Kate's Paperie was purchased by Russ Berry's widow and her brother, who I worked for years ago. So back up and tell us a little bit about your long story and history.
Well, I'll try not to make it as long as it is, but I technically grew up in retail. Right. I'm just I've been a very creative soul, very right brain, left brain, which I love. I'm super creative, but I can be a little analytical. And I went to art school for a hot minute and realized that it was not the right thing for me at the right time. And so I packed up and I moved to California, and I kind of just got involved with retail and running stores. And that's how my retail experience really started. And it just kind of grew and developed into like running multiple stores and then, working with districts and then kind of bouncing around a little bit. Born and raised in New York and then moved to San Francisco. And then I found myself in the Midwest actually for like 6 years. Yep. And Mall of America, no less. It was really very eye-opening just to be in that part of the country that I hadn't been involved in. Retail is very different there. Mall of America is completely different in itself, which is definitely an experience.
Universe.
It's a whole universe. They have a freaking amusement park right in the middle of the mall. I don't know, whatever. So I was there for a little while. And then while I was there, got involved with a small independent interior design company called Textiles. The woman who owned it, her name was Amy. And I ended up, when I was in between jobs, I ended up working with her, really just like looking for part-time work. I was going to do something new and figure out what my new life was. And I'll just work there part-time so I could pay my rent. And I walked in and I was like, I can merchandise your whole store in one night, like, let me play. And she hired me. And I did merchandise her store in one night. And then I did like a sample sale for her and made like $17,000 in the weekend. And she was like, okay. She was like, we got to do something else here. So I ended up working for her full time and running her store and then learning about interior design. But in the interim, I started traveling back to markets. So I started purchasing for her, going to the New York International Gift Fair and AKA New York Now. and going to America's Mart in Dallas, and so I started getting into purchasing, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do, because why wouldn't you want to spend other people's money? It's great, right? So so then I was like, I'm going to be a buyer. So then I ended up getting a buyer's job for an airport retailer, and did a really bad job. I think they probably are still trying to like sell through the inventory that I bought from them, because I just couldn't comprehend rate of sale.
But I circle back to that.
Yeah, but I learned. I mean, I definitely learned my retail math. But I will tell everybody that everything I've learned is through trial and error and School of Hard Knocks. So that led into, I think I'm going to move back to New York. And when I moved back to New York, I needed a job. And so I walked into Kate's Paperie down on 13th. I think it was 13th Street, right next to Parsons. I applied for a job and, found myself as the manager of their first location, and got acquainted with Leonard Flax and Joe Barrero, the original owners. So I was with Kate's Paperie for a good period of time, running stores. I moved to their flagship store on 57th Street. And then a connection that I had got me involved with, or just connected me to a headhunter who was looking for a paper buyer. And Kate's Paperie is synonymous with beautiful papers, right? So I did learn a lot, but I went back into my merchandising, knowing my retail math this time. So it was a completely different entity. And I joined a company called Blue Tulip, and I was with them for a few years. We had about 130 locations, I believe. I was their greeting card buyer. I was their paper buyer. I moved into like small holiday gifts. And, and then the economy tanked. And so we went bankrupt. And about a year, and then I did some other like consulting, and I worked with some paper companies and one British company called Talking Tables, and literally helped bring them into the US. And so then I ended up working, not only just helping them with like product development and just like the US demographic, because it's very different than the Brits. We use paper in a very different way. And then I ended up working with them when they were at the National Stationery Show, and then they moved to New York Now at the time. So, so then I worked on that side of the aisle, right? And then ended up going back to Kate's Paperie as their greeting card and paper buyer. And then we expanded their home. They didn't really have a home entertaining category. And so I brought that to them, and that was under the new ownership of Angelica Berry. Great. So that's how that circle went. I had a couple of other things since then before I landed here. So if you want to chew on Kate's Paperie for a while with me, I'm here.
I mean, I adored that store. I loved Greg and Angelica. Like I worked for them. Russ had just passed away. Angelica was taking over. She brought her brother in, and then they brought me in, and it was like one of those dream jobs where there's not really a budget, and we just want to look amazing. And, I changed the entire way it was done, which I don't know if the reps were super stoked with, I'll be honest, because everybody's complaint was like, it's so hard to sell now. It's like the same way I merchandise now for my wholesalers. It was so ahead of the game, and it was so far from where they were. And then I don't know if Angelica sold it or left, but I remember getting an email from Greg saying, we're purchasing Kate's Paperie, blah, blah, blah. I think they were walking away or had sold Russ or closed Russ. So when I saw that on your paperwork, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a small world. Cause I mean, I can imagine that store is amazing for one, but the fact that you were the one behind bringing in the housewares and tabletop and gifts is like pretty amazing.
It was great. And to your point, budgets weren't really settled on. So, that happens a lot of times with a smaller family owned business, family run. I'm like, we're going to have to go back and look at the dates, because we could have really been two ships that passed in the night at some point.
I think so.
But it was a lot of fun and a lot of work. And we did quite well. I had an amazing assistant who went off to be like one of the senior buyers over at Anthro. And together, yeah, like I said, it's a small world. I'm sure you might even know her.
Separation.
Right. But yeah, it was kind of beautiful. And I mean, even when I was a store manager to when I was a buyer, this affinity for greeting cards has always been kind of in my blood since Blue Tulip, because I had the most amazing analysts that I worked with. And I actually really loved that group. I think that entity could actually survive very well in this day and age. But anyway, I learned Blue Tulip.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very, it was like a little department store under one roof. It was really great. But that being said, I learned so much from the people that I worked with there that I was able to move into every other job that I had that much, more in tune with just the full circle or the full cycle of business. And so then, you look at a greeting card and most people think, all right, so, $4.95. And it's like, no, we were selling greeting cards for like $18, $24, $30.
Wow.
Not in abundance, but it existed because the people who came to Kate's were such paper aficionados. And, I don't know about you. I would bet that you walk into any store and the first thing you do when you find something you like is you turn it over to see who made it. So it's really the same thing with the greeting card. We pull our cards and immediately we turn it around to see who the designer is. And, it's something that I do to this day. But people would walk into the stores and start looking at all the brands. And oh my gosh, then you would know like Market was in town. If you weren't keyed into the fact that it was Market time, they would all come in with their, then their Blackberries and their little notepads and like see everything we had so that they could go and purchase it.
They didn't at least buy it, because I know like when I was at Fred's, and apparel is different, but man, like I loved when the apparel shows were in town, because I had people coming in and like the buyers for, I think it was limited, like tell us all your top selling denims, like okay, and just load them up with like stuff, and it's like at least they bought it versus like they didn't even buy all the cards. Because I know when I did New York now, and I would come in, and Michael Campbell, my then boss for Fred's Winery, Michael took me to all his favorite stores, Kate's Paperie, Fish's Eddie, ABC, like we did the rounds, and it was like, I was always taught by Michael, if like you're interested in a line, make sure you are buying the sample. That way you can also feel it, touch it, whatever, analyze it at home, but you're not doing it in the middle of the store and this weird hush, like looking.
No, same thing. We would see people coming in, everybody who was turning something over, writing notes then, because, it really wasn't about the cell phone right then. For greeting cards and paper, sure, people probably did purchase, bits and pieces here, because who wouldn't want to sample? And half of the products there were so fantastic that, you couldn't walk into any of those locations and not walk out with, a beautiful ecru and forest green bag with the big K off.
Yep.
That's what we did.
So at what point did you make the jump to where you're now? I mean, were you there for a long time?
So in all fairness, I came in shortly after the transition from Leonard Flax, who actually, I don't know if you know, just recently passed away at 94. So one of the original owners just passed away. And I would see him at Market and we would take our pictures together and he would say, Amy, you were my favorite manager. And I think he said that to everybody, but I loved that moment with him. But so I was there honestly for just about a year the second time, because I mean, really what happened is that Angelica brought her family in, and Greg wanted to do a lot of the purchasing himself. So you're really not going to win that battle. So I just was like, how long am I going to be here? Let me just know. And then I left Kate's and took a little time off, did my own thing for a while. And then I was like, yeah, I really should start working again. And I knew that I was always interested in trade shows, because that first moment that I stepped in the aisles when I was with Amy from St. Paul, that she brought me to Market, it was really like this moment of like clarity for me. It's like I stepped in the aisles, the clouds dissipated, the sun started shining, and I was like, she's home. Like, you love this. And I didn't even know it, and so I always knew that I had this connection to trade shows. And then I would go, and then I would, I would see all the leaders, walking down the aisle, and I'd be pacing, chasing Patty Strecker-Lee from the stationery show at the time. And I'm like, I love paper, like even like just, I want to work here, so I was doing that kind of thing for a while. But the reality is that the New York Now office, in its most recent time, there is one in New York City, but the one that housed New York Now was in White Plains. And so being an Upper West Sider, it just wasn't a realistic commute for me. And then all of a sudden, but I always kept peeking at their jobs. And Emerald put up this job for relations manager. And I was like, God damn it, that's me. Like 100%, it's me. And so I was just like, let me get the job, and then I'll just figure it out. And that was really kind of the attitude that I had. And I don't think I've ever been so confident in my life. I was like, that job has my name all over it. I've been a buyer, I've been a seller. I know that market. I know the brands. Like, why wouldn't you want me there? Like, why wouldn't you want to hire me? And so I interviewed and literally got the job within 3 days. And it was like the fastest interviewing process I'd ever had. And at that point I was like, guess I need a car. And so like, I just put all the pieces in place after that. And, I've been there, it's over 4 years now. And there's been some shifting and some evolution and some pandemics and, lots of change. And at the end of the day, change means challenge, and challenge is good. And we're in a really good moment right now with our latest acquisition, and market is just a few days away. And really, it's just a good moment right now.
Your explanation of the clouds parting and the sun shining on walking onto a trade show floor, that's still, it's like, I've said this in the podcast before, I've said it in my blogs. It's like this time of year for me, whether I'm doing setup or I'm doing it as a buyer, is my most favorite. It's like, there's something about the energy of a show. There's something about the energy of, that funky rush you get when you walk in and you got to register, and like, what aisle am I starting on? If you don't have appointments, I don't make appointments in any of the shows, with the exception of the Vegas gift show, because I only have to do it in 2 days with one of my clients.
Oh my gosh.
It was kind of crazy. And now this time I'm like, I sort of feel like we should do it for 3 days, because we never walked any of the other floors. It was literally like appointment to appointment to appointment.
Yeah.
And temps, of course, because that's my favorite. And to me, New York Now is like a giant temp. I mean, that's always my favorite part of shows. Like, so I haven't been, so I did this show set up for the Harper Group for a couple of years. That was the last time I was actually in New York. It was the fall show
prior to pandemic.
We showed, and it was. I just was looking at something this morning. I'm like, I wish so bad I could go to New York Now, and it's days away, and it's my favorite show. So tell me, I know there were some changes during the pandemic. You guys, they kind of switched some things around, and I don't know exactly what, and I don't know if this won't air before the show. I kind of wished it had been, but because of timing and whatnot. But tell me some of the things, the changes that were made.
Cool, sure. Well, first of all, if you want to come to market, I can help you. So let's just see. I know you're exhausted. I'm getting you in for winter. We're going to do something fun together for winter.
Yeah, I would love it.
Definitely. Rather than going into like where we were, I think we should talk about like where we are right now. Cause I mean, trade shows in general have had some real challenges, right? And we've shrunk down incredibly. We had no shows for a long time, and then we came back, and did people really come? We wanted to come, but did they? And then some did, and then some didn't. And the reality is that we've been pushing our way back ever since. And thank God for that, really. I mean, we are stronger together. This is not all just a single entity of this market and that market. Our buyers cross over all categories and all markets. And I think that at the end of the day, when we make our buyers happy, and our brands are going to be happier, and vice versa. With where we are now, New York Now, went through a little bit of a struggle, and then so we're a smaller snapshot than what we used to be in the past, but we have a very key aggressive growth plan that is exciting to see. And so far, we're pretty much trending right on track for where we want to be, coming through to the next few years. There is absolutely no way that anybody is going to come out of a shutdown and build back and be like where they were in their heyday, right? So us, like every other market, we're experiencing growth, and that is just a positive sign. And so we're looking good. So we're bigger than we were the market before, and we're bigger than the market we were before that. And I don't know if you've heard, but there was a very cool acquisition that just happened. So let me share that with you. So New York Now just purchased bulletin.com. Are you familiar with the Bulletin platform?
No.
It's very, it's amazing. And I'm super excited about this, to be very transparent with you. I'm very excited about it. I'm sure you've heard of Fair and some of those other platforms. That is an e-commerce platform and digital format for both buyers and brands to conduct business. And the beautiful thing about Bulletin is that they're highly curated. So whereas you have some of these other digital platforms that are just expansive and let everybody in and they don't vet, which can be an issue sometimes for retailers, Bulletin does, and it's highly curated home gift lifestyle. And it's and the platform is transactional. So really what we had was, like everybody else coming out of a pandemic, needing to have a platform that's transactional so that our buyers could, have activity 365. We started with one platform. It was good. It didn't hit the mark for us. We, are into another one. It's so good. They're so great. But there is an element that our sector of the industry is missing. And so instead of just recreating that wheel, we literally bought something in place. And I don't think I could be like, I'm so excited to have the Bulletin team come in. It's a very different type of acquisition. We didn't just buy the software and everybody's gone. We're actually working now and merging with the Bulletin team.
That's great.
And I can't tell you I know what is going to happen, but I know shit's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, we are going to make some great Can I say that? I think you cursed on my podcast, so I'm pretty sure I can curse on yours. Considering the name of your podcast, I'm pretty sure I can. So I'm just so excited to be working with this team of incredibly smart, vivacious women who get it and who are, from the industry. So I'm excited as to what's to come. Our buyers are going to be super, super happy because they're going to be able to connect and have a transactional experience on our platform. Our brands are going to be able to connect with our buyers. You won't see so much of a change for our summer market. I know this is airing post-market, but there will be a booth where you will be introduced to Bulletin. There will be some great fun raffles, but we should, if you haven't heard of Bulletin, you really should look them up or connect with me and I'll help you. But then for winter market, there's probably going to be some big differences. And we've also moved into some new activations with just our sections and how we're presenting them and expansion in others. So there is so much happening this next year. And the Bulletin for me is just the Bulletin. That acquisition is really, we've just been working so hard. It feels like we got ourselves to this point, and I'm just super excited as to what's going to continue to happen.
So it's basically like a Fair platform.
Yep.
And when you say lines are vetted, no dig on Fair, but there's a number of lines that I think of, like in candles, that feel like they're straight off of Etsy, that, there are things that I worry about, like, in a like the number one way fires are started in houses are candles. And I know if you have a candle line, you have to have like a $5 million policy. There's a lot of candles on that platform that have dried flowers and stuff like that, that are not big brands. They're made in someone's, so is that when
Yeah.
you say vetted, is that sort of like what
No,
they're,
you're absolutely going to see some smaller Etsy, but also maybe what our audience doesn't know yet is that our co-founders, Alana Kriegsman and Alana Branston, basically started doing pop-up markets and had like a whole Etsy line. I'm probably slaughtering their history. I'm just getting all caught up to speed now. But they are so keyed into the elements that you're talking about so that we can actually put forward not just perhaps a new and emerging brand that we haven't seen before, which everybody wants is
yes,
new and emerging, but also quality product and making sure that everybody, hits all the criteria and the government, rules and regs that we need to hit. But you're also going to see some of the larger brands too. And this is not meant to be a dig on anybody else. So when I say highly curated, I'm just saying that for our particular, meaning New York Now, our particular sector, lifestyle, gift and stationery, home, tabletop, like our little segment. We're not deep into fashion, that, but we do have like apparel accessories that might develop in time. You're going to see brands that emulate the sections that we have, and I no doubt that you'll probably see expansion in others.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, there's no dig on fair at all, because to be honest with you, I think it's what saved a lot of stores, like during
100%.
But I do, as a retailer, I do like get a little nervous sometimes. I'm like, because I know a lot. That's why I asked about the vetting. But it is
Sure.
what I do love is that it is new and emerging, and because they're curating it, it seems like it's much, it's going to be smaller. It seems like it's going to be much more special and closer to what the New York Now framework as far as design and whatnot, because it's very design savvy, New York Now. I mean, there's not, you don't run into like a lot of like hobunk lines that like, it's very contemporary, very curated.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is everybody loves a small intimate market, right? That's all we heard. Like, I love it. It's small. I can do this in a day and a half. I can do this in 2 days. But we all know that we can't maintain that size to continue putting on a trade show, right? No show can, right? So we will expand, we will get bigger. And this venture with Bulletin will help us do that. They will get bigger as well. But we do have some other interesting, really fun areas. So we just did San Francisco Now, which was a regional pop-up. We did that last April. That was our first time doing a regional pop-up. This is part of a whole new opportunity for us to take a smaller market, create that intimate selling platform, live and in person, and take it into different states, which we're working on.
I wanted to make that one. I couldn't make that. I'm bummed.
We'll have more. Believe me, you're not getting away that easy, my friend.
So now when you guys downsized New York Now after post-pandemic, because I know it as the gazebo or the aviary, what's it called? The glass dome space.
Oh, are you talking about upstairs in the River Palace? Or are you talking about the Crystal Palace up front?
I guess it's when Harper Group's space used to be in the atrium.
In the atrium, that's the Crystal Palace, yeah.
So there's that space, and then there's like the massive football fields of downstairs. So when you say it shrank, like what size was it, and what size is it now, or gaining back again? But like, what's this difference?
Well, I don't know if I have the exact numbers for you, but the reality is just like everybody, New York Now back in its day used to take up 2 floors and many different halls. And right now we are on the 3rd floor. So we are just taking up 1 floor. Okay. The area up front in the Crystal Palace where we had the Harper Group and Karen Allweil and like She Trades, like there was a whole bunch of, now we use that for like a display space. But the reality is we want people to come into the market. And so you will see Harper Group actually has been inside now for a couple of markets. They have an amazing section. So definitely call out. I know this is after the fact. Guys, if you don't know Harper Group, you really should just go on the website. They are amazing.
Yeah, I like the brothers, and it's like they're their merchandising and their style, their showroom, their,
Yeah.
all of it's like so good.
Yeah. So really what I would say is just like flash forward, I would say by like 2025, we should hopefully be back to the size that we used to be like, back in the day, looking at 2 floors again and several thousand lines.
That kind of it seems more like when I was going to New York Now with Michael Campbell, where, the atrium wasn't like actually like merchandise was there. It was like the display and where you registered and you went downstairs. Is ENK still overlapping Magic?
It has in the past. I kind of believe JA is overlapping this time.
Good. I always feel like for retailers, if you're going to hit it on both parts, like, okay, we can stay an extra day and then do ENK and then.
Yeah. So do you want to hear something kind of interesting?
Yeah.
So I actually merchandise a booth for Market.
Hey,
yep, I do. So it started last Market. It was called the Floor to Store. What's it called? The Floor to Store exclusive.
Oh, I saw this on Instagram. I meant to. Okay, so tell me all about like
what that is and how that grew. It kind of developed into this crazy thing. So I guess initially, because I'm kind of immersed in gift and stationery, I do, and then I've got a peer in the relations team, and we kind of go and pick out Market favorites. And what happened is that we just kind of developed this idea to develop a small space. And what I'm always looking to do is connect the buyer to the brand. And so I thought, what if I took a selection? I mean, there was like, 200 brands, 300 brands in gift and stationery. What if I just took a small selection, a small snapshot of brands, and did a small curated display and made it look like a retail store, so that when the buyer walked by and you walked in, it wasn't a selling space. I wasn't selling there, but what I was doing is introducing you to perhaps a line that you may have missed and you didn't, you hadn't heard about Dahlia Press. So like, oh my God, I love this product. And then I could be like, oh my God, she's in aisle 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? Or that they would come in and be like, I didn't see this product when I was in Dahlia's booth, and they might go back. So it really is all about educating the buyer to maybe help envision this product in their store.
Yeah.
And then, so we did that last year. It was very successful. It looked like a store. I had a lot of time. I had a lot of fun doing it. I give you so much credit for what you do. It is like, and of course, just putting up a booth. I've done it before, but not to that extent. It's insanity. I love all of you people who do it and do it with love. And so this year I'm doing it again, or this Market I'm doing it again. And it's going to be a little bit more of a lounge space. But one fun element I'm adding to it is I've connected with the FIT Merchandising Society team, and I'm going to have a handful of their students actually running the booth, which I'm like super excited about. It's an educational opportunity for them. I get to help and mentor them a little bit about trade shows. I'll speak, I'll speak for them later. They're going to come in now. I'm looking to do some sort of like educational classes, moving into winter where like we have a classroom. So everything starts with a seed, and it's just, I'm so excited to see where this is going to go. I really am.
I love that. And I love the idea of mentoring. I need to reach out to FITM that's here. And it's like, mentoring is my personal favorite thing to do. And it's, I think it's so important. And it's, for the ones that are really hungry and they really want to learn. I mean, you're always going to get the ones that are like, yeah, I'm here, just to get the credit.
Yeah.
By far and large, like retail and merchandising is very much a passion. And for the younger generation that's are really excited about, I've got right now an intern that works with me. She's in a school down south that's for merchandising. And it's so great to see and be around her energy, because she's just is taking it all in. What a great opportunity for you and for them.
So much,
I mean, my God.
So much fun. I mean, I honestly, that's pretty much how I spend my Market. I've got events and meetings throughout, but for the most part, 75% of my time is on the floor. Yeah. I am walking and talking and meeting half the time. I mean, this whole thing with FIT came around from last Market when I saw this huge group of young girls, and I'm like, who are you and what are you doing? And then they just explained who they were. And I was like, oh my God, you're downtown, you're midtown, I'm uptown, like, let's connect. And like, lo and behold, I mean, it's just amazing it's amazing how you can talk to one person and then flash forward and just this whole new incredible idea has like germinated into something.
I love that. So the space that you're creating is like a store, but it's, it's funny you say that, because my husband and I are sitting out back when I got home, and I was like, because I'm building the subscription-based platform that
Yep.
we're filming on, teaching how to read. And the challenge I'm having is it's very hard to film when you're under, extreme deadlines. And I'm basically directing 5 people in a showroom. It's not, but he was like, why don't you reach out to one of the showrooms and, say, hey, when you're not open, can we take over space? And the next thing I thought, I was like, I want to do, and I'm hoping I'm going to reach out to a couple people, but I would love to be able to take all the lines that are in one of those showrooms, like a Stephen Young or a Matt from Fine Lines or sales producers, and create like a Mother's Day shop and pull from
Love it.
all my favorite things from the showroom and create
Love
this
it.
Mother's Day shop, and
Yep.
include signage, include the display element, include all of that. Like,
I think it's an amazing idea.
I think that's how retailers buy. And I think what you created, you're basically doing that, because we all buy, we're all very visual. And I know
Right.
when I do displays and merchandising, it's all about getting their attention. So hopefully they want to recreate it in their stores.
Yeah, that's really where this comes from. And this is not a diss to anybody. Like, setting up a booth in a trade show is a challenge. You've got specifications, lighting, extra costs. And some of the booths are just absolutely phenomenal. And even the ones that are very, they're not dense with fixtures are stunning. But to your point, you have a few seconds to grab a buyer's attention. They're walking down an aisle, they're scanning, they're seeing what calls out to them. And sometimes it can literally just be the way something is featured, or it can be a color, or it can be, the way something is draped. And they're like, oh, I need to do that in my store. And then they go in and they see how you did it. Because it's not just about the product, it's about ideas. So to your point, yes, retailers are visual people. I've been saying that forever. If we want to resonate with them, we have to be presenting them images that will resonate with them. And that's what I explain to people who are like, well, it's my first time, and how do what do you think that I should do for my booth? And there's so many, I get pulled into so many conversations, and I want to be really thoughtful, but I also want to be mindful. There are people who do this for a living, right? Talking with one of them. So, I like to literally bring people to the experts, and that's why I consider myself a connector. Yeah. But on my side, I've also been a merchandiser, and I've been a buyer, and I know what appeals to me. And I know that I can pull an assortment together, and I know that I can display it in a very different way than it's going to be in that booth, and it's going to catch somebody's eye. And that's exactly what this is about. It's about just trying to make that other connection with the product and bringing a buyer and a brand together.
How big is the space that you created?
Well, last time, I think it was like an 8x10, and it was like dense with these IKEA fixtures. And now I'm in a 20x20. However, I'm not expanding. I'm actually curating it more so. I've got, it's really a lounge space. So people can come in and sit down, and then I'll have this, curated against the back wall and the side wall. And so it's not only a place just to relax. I think we've got a couple of sessions that'll be there, like gift wrapping, but then you can kind of come in and look at the product as well. So even though it's a 20x20, do not think for a moment that I am filling it with like 900 brands. I'm literally pinpointing it to about 24. I
give it to you just for setting up. I mean, setting up in New York is no joke, because the biggest factor is the union. And it's like, it's no joke. I mean, it's like, I'm not used to that. I know when the convention center in Los Angeles we used to do back in the day, when the convention center used to house part of the gift show, I was doing displays for the building for there, and just getting used to a drill for a drill. My guy has a drill. I mean, I have to hire a union guy for a drill. New York, very different. None of us, nobody touches a drill. It's like, Karen Orwell was saying that I guess one of the years, like they planted a Marshall sitting smack in her booth because they kept like I had gotten caught a couple
Because they
times.
know.
Yeah, they would literally sit there, and it's like it's
Yep.
intimidating. I mean, but also in the same breath, I will say it's very nice not to be considering a lot of the times the merchandisers are in other areas, the ones putting together all the IKEA furniture. And it's kind of nice sometimes to have like, okay, good, you got this. I'll be over here.
Yeah. You know, I will say too, to anybody who's listening to this, the best thing that you can do is connect with your sales manager. If you are a brand exhibiting, if you're looking to exhibit, because there are packages and there are ways around those extra costs that can be, you know, a surprise. So the best thing you can do is connect with the experts, and those are the people who are selling the space.
That's great.
But to your point, absolutely. And I know Karen, I'm sure she had her spies out waiting for them to go and then going, okay, hammer now, you know, like I can see her doing that.
I mean, because all of us, the other part too, is that all of us, you know, want to go home. And sometimes it doesn't happen. I mean, I know loadout, I heard stories of back in the day from loading out that, you know, there are certain people that would actually tip the guys to get your stuff get your crates out before other crates, because you have to wait till like I will say this for all of the people, and I have major props for all the people that do setup, display and merchandise, stay and sell, and then break it down like the Harper Group principles. Like, I have to say, like, mad props to that, because I am so happy to get on a plane after I'm done, but to stay and sell and smile and everything, and you're tired. And then now you got to break it down. And now it doesn't, you could be breaking down and wait until your crates till 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like, and that's so I give huge props to the people that do that.
Yeah, I think they have some new like policies and procedures where they like give you a pager and they're like, you know, go get dinner. We'll page you an hour before we come by. But to your point, and the larger a market gets, what does that mean? The longer you're going to wait, right? So
it's part of the show.
It is absolutely a realistic thing, and it's part of what we do, which is why you and I both give so much love to the people who do this, because it is a lot of work.
And for the buyers who are listening, who you might be kind of impatient with your reps because they're doing a couple things, or because your reps are not moving as fast as you like them to. This is why, because that's part of the retail sector that I only know because I'm involved in it, but I don't think a lot of retailers really understand setting up these. And New York Now is basically setting up a temp space. So you have we would load in your floors, your hard floors and your hard walls and your big stuff load in first, then your furniture arrives. And again, you have to have union guys, they're pulling everything. I mean, I don't think union guys have to pull it out. I think I was able to have temps pull furniture out, but you know, it's such a big project in such a small amount of time. And then again, to stay and sell and do dinners out, and you're on your feet, and like, so for the buyers that sometimes are not as patient because things are not happening, and you are also in a rush, we're all in a rush, we all know that, but please have some empathy for the people that are putting these booths together and staying, because it is a gnarly job. And if you're coming on the back end of it, like New York Now is the last show of the season, these people are tired. These people have
it's their fourth market.
have not seen their families. Like it is like show season is no joke on the other side.
Yeah, I know. I usually buy a whole bunch of tins of cookies, and I'm like, here, I just want them to be happy. Like they work so hard for us. And but to your point, you know what, I think that's really a good lesson just for all of us, just being human in general. Like we've been through a lot. We're still morphing, we're still changing, we're still evolving, we're still learning. Like we just need to be really gracious with a smile. You know what I mean? It's so much nicer to do business under that kind of umbrella than just like, give me my order. Like nobody wants to be like that, you know?
It's hard. And the other thing I will say, just a side note on booths, is I don't know if you're allowed to play music, but you'll go into booths where, and this is, you know, this is a peeve, but it's also, it also applies to retailers, is walking into a store where there's no music playing and you have an employee that's on their phone or head down on the computer, who doesn't look up, who doesn't say hi, it's like almost like, is it okay if I'm in here? Like, and that's one of the things at the shows where it's like, I wish I could say like, hey, play some music, or like at least stand, like Fred Siegel used to say, energy creates energy. Open your boxes on the floor. That way,
creates energy. That is for sure.
And you're doing something, and then it's not like this weird, like, I mean, because I'll admit, like, there's a couple of booths I went into in Atlanta, and it's not their fault. It's like, you get slow and you got to check emails and you get bored. But there's a couple where literally I walked in, no one said anything, and it was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna go now. Literally walked right out.
Yeah, I would say the rule of thumb is if you have to look at your email, fine, but why are you going to let an opportunity walk right by you if somebody's even walked into your booth and you're not even, and there's no energy there, right?
So weird.
You are hitting the nail on the head. We have conversations, we have webinars, we have training, we have mentoring groups where we say that all the time. A buyer may not walk in if your head is down, right? They just may not. They may not feel welcome.
I mean, there's the booths, like the Cody Fosters, the one like where they're like crazy busy in there, and that is that own kind of energy. But then you have booths that like could equally sell kind of something equally as interesting, but it's so awkward to walk in and it doesn't look like anything's happening. It gives off the signal that it's like not that big of a deal. And because as a buyer and you're walking around booths and you see like, oh, what's going on? There's all these buyers and people are like standing around walking, and you may not even buy it, but because there's this little commotion going on, it's like, oh, what's going on? You go there. And that's what I would assume, but that as retailers, that's what you want as well.
No, I would also say as retailers, what happens when your store is slow? What do? You tear down that front wall, and then all of a sudden everybody's walking in your store and you're in the middle of merchandising, because energy creates energy. And I mean, that's just it right there.
Best rule. And I will say, like, if you stuck me in a store now, it was like, okay, you're going to sell here this weekend. I will admit, because I've had to cover some stores on the weekends, like I'll help you on the floor. If I don't have something to do, like, or I'm not merchandising, I am the most awkward salesperson. It's like, hello, how are you? Because I don't know, my hands, or I put them down, or in my pocket. It's the weird, but if I'm in a store and I'm merchandising, it's so like, hey, how are you? Let me know if I can help you with anything, even though I might not have the answer, but someone's always gravitated towards you when I'm busy. But if you stuck me in a store and I was just like, that's all you're doing, I would suck. I do suck.
You're hysterical.
Tell me about you. Have a podcast. You interviewed me. You have two podcasts. You do the.
I do.
And then
so I do a buyer spotlight where I do like to feature industry people like yourself. Everybody from a retail or store owner to just, again, like another peer podcaster, just important people in the industry, people to connect with. I always think podcasts, they're a great way to get to know somebody, and you just never know who you're going to resonate with and who's going to reach out to you. So that's the podcast I do for New York Now. Well, I do them both for New York Now. The second one, I align with Sarah Schwartz of the Paper Fold. And the Paper Nerd. She is also one of the editors for Stationary Trends, right? And so we together do the Paper Plane podcast, the Paper Plane Cocktail Hour podcast. It's a long name. And so what we do is we interview probably more designers than retailers, people who have, in this year we paid homage to like brand new designers out in the world. They just started their business within the last few years. And then in the middle of the year, we're just ending now that like middle segment of like people who have been out and selling and have their, platform. And then we're ending the year with people who have really like, they're in their, like, I don't want to say home stretch, but they're established and they have, their following and their businesses, they're not still playing with a model, so to speak, that they actually, they're maybe opening more stores. So that's what we've been doing for this year. Next year might be a whole different ball game, but essentially it is really paper oriented, mostly designers, and it's been a load of fun. I used to actually drink the cocktail while we did. Now
are you both having cocktails?
No, it only so now, it's like I'll drink it when it airs. It airs the second Thursday or Wednesday. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember the day it drops of each month. I think it's the Thursday and at 5 p.m. But like sometimes we're interviewing people at like, 10 in the morning. So no, I'm not drinking a paper plane cocktail at 10 in the morning, but I certainly did become very fond of the cocktail.
Yeah, I think everyone did during, especially like during the Zoom things. I've
Oh
only done
yeah, yeah,
that once, and it was with people that I worked with at Z Gallery, so it was like kind of fun. But I realized I'm like, I am more afraid of what I possibly would say after possibly a cocktail because
100%.
I'm already bad with the F bomb, so I'm
100%.
so.
So, yes, we are on the fourth Thursday of every month.
And New York Now podcast comes out when?
On the second Thursday of every month.
So wow. So tell me, because I think I've asked you this before, is like, how are you? Because when it's show season, I watch your Instagram. You are like everywhere. How are you finding time to record? Because I can tell you now from my end, like granted, mine is once a week, but it's really challenging because it's like I'm doing it after long days, and you want to be kind of fresh, but as soon as you start talking, it's like magic. But I do often wonder like how with your schedule is crazy. Like how do you do two different podcasts?
Well, in all honesty, sometimes I have to air a repeat that I've done a couple of years ago just because I haven't been able to get it done. It ebbs and flows. And I don't know. I am working all the time. I do not have a traditional schedule, as I know that you don't either. I am traveling and going to the markets, and I am trying to do my own job for New York Now and make sure that we're getting all the buyers to market and that they know, what the market happenings are and the opportunities that they may miss because, who reads all their emails? I don't read all my emails. So I don't have a magical answer for you except that when the bug bites, do it. And so like I'll open up my computer at 10, 11 o'clock when that idea hits. I'm a night owl. I get
Oh my God.
I get most of my energy in the evening. And I also have discovered, I don't know about you, but I find that I'm a little ADD these days because I've got so much going on that I start everything and with great intentions. And then sometimes they just kind of dwindle off and it's like, whatever happened to that? And I'm not always finishing everything. But I guess, yeah, I don't have a magic answer for you. I'm always working. I'm always on.
When do you have time? I mean, so the show season, New York Now is the end of the show season. It's the last one.
Yep.
What does it look like after show?
For me. So right after market, now the really good thing is that we're all 100% remote now, right? So I mentioned that we had an office in White Plains, but we shut that down in the beginning of the year. And, if we need an office to go to, we can go to our Broadway street office here, but we're 100% remote and we all travel because that's like the nature of our business, right? We go to competitive shows, we prospect, and so this is my home office, so I can work anytime. So as long as I have Wi-Fi and a computer, I can work anywhere. So I'm actually planning, and cross your fingers it happens, a little bit of a trip with a good friend of mine, Robin Kramer. She's another industry woman who is somebody that y'all should look up, Red Boot Consulting. She definitely focuses more in the jewelry sector, but she's definitely somebody to connect with, especially if you're a new and emerging brand. Whoa, I just did a huge plug and I'm talking faster and faster. Have you noticed that? But I'm planning on taking like a driving trip with her. And the reality is that I really do love what I do. This is no diss. Like I love what I do. I will be doing this for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I may be working with different partners, but I'm here and this is what makes me happy. So I am, first of all, so happy that I found what makes me happy, where I don't feel lost. And I'm not saying, what do I want to be when I grow up? I know that this is it. So when I travel, like I love going into the stores, and guess what? I get to do a store visit. I get to talk to the owner. I get to see where they shop. I get to meet them. I get to do an Instagram story on them, but I'm shopping with them. I now know who they are. And that that is what personally, like, I enjoy. Then of course I want to go out to dinner and drink a bottle of wine with a friend and talk about shit. But like, that's what makes me happy. So for this, week after market, I, plan on driving to the places that make me happy. I'll head back to the Hudson Valley. I'll head up to my brother's in Sag Harbor and, and have some good dinners and some good meals. And I'll visit friends and I'll see the stores that make me happy. And then to really answer your question, October, I need 10 days where I can literally just not be online. And I have not figured that out yet, but sometime in October, I am jumping on a plane and I am going somewhere. So fingers crossed, I'll make that happen. There is something to disconnecting that I don't do well.
Yeah.
And I am definitely seeking to do that more, healthy mind, body, and soul. So even though I love what I do, I don't have to be immersed in it 24/7. I do know that.
I mean, there's definitely because I feel like when you are able to step away, I feel like that just regenerates you. But I get the store thing. It's funny because that's all I used to do. Like with Michael Campbell, when we used to come to New York, Michael would drag me everywhere, all these amazing stores. And there's still so many that are, and I still kind of do it, but I think it's funny, I don't do it as much as I like now. And I think a lot of it is because I drive so much for work that the idea of getting in a car and going, and I'll do it a little bit when I'm on vacation, but you really do need to we're going to go away. Our anniversary is on the 19th of October. And I will be, I think at that point, living back again in Las Vegas for Stephen Young's showroom that he's opening in Las Vegas. So I heard. Yes, I'll be living there a lot.
Yes,
we're going to do our anniversary before, and we're going to go to Mexico. So it's like, be so happy to leave. I still have to bring some stuff with me, but there's something to be said about disconnecting. And
I know, I hear you. And 100%, there is something to be said about disconnecting and just kind of being in the moment.
Yes. So when do you start gearing up for the next, when does New York, because I know for my gear up, it starts in, I guess.
Oh yeah, it started. So it's usually like 3 months prior to the market is a complete ramp up. And just because of our group, New York Now is in the retail group. We've got a bunch of other sister markets that we work alongside of, that all happen, throughout the year. New York Now, the ramp up is 3 months before for us. And then I'll say it kind of slows a bit, but then once, winter market hits, then we have American Handcrafted right after that. And then after American Handcrafted, then we have San Francisco Now. So there's not as many ramp ups and ramp downs. It's kind of like massive ramp up, and then you just kind of regulate a little bit, and then you shoot back up again. So it's definitely a lot of intensity right now.
The American Handcrafted show, when is that and what is that? Because I saw that on your bio and I don't think I've ever heard of it.
The American Handcrafted market is in Philadelphia, and I will tell you the exact dates as I look them up right now, because I don't always have those dates. That's February 25th, 26th, and 27th. And those are all artists. It's all made in the USA.
Wow.
All made in the USA. It's a beautiful market. If you can get to Philadelphia, it really is. It's an amazing community of people. You're going to see jewelry, glass, ceramic, metal, textile, and just like any other market, every brand has a story. There's a connection, just to be able to learn about the process. All helps you sell it in your store as well. It's a beautiful market.
Is it a large show, or is it, like?
No, it's an intimate market. I don't have the exact numbers. It's a couple of hundred lines. So you can definitely do it in like 2 days. Yeah.
Oh, I might have to check that out.
It really is lovely.
So I ask a lot of people, I fall off and forget to ask it sometimes, but because you're very creative and you're visual, where do you find inspiration? I think I know the answer, but where do you find inspiration?
It's everywhere, really. Obviously I go to stores and I love looking at the merchandise and the products. and the trade shows. But I find that as of late, my ideas are coming from, maybe walking by, I don't know, a restaurant and seeing somebody's tote bag and the way something is hanging from it, like the most obscure thing. Maybe it's, a new pair of shoes and the color reminded me of something that shot me over here. I really am ADD. I'm not kidding. I'm kind of all over the place.
I think all creative hustlers, I hate to say it, that are busy, have their hands in, and I think all of us are ADD.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think that that's quite honestly how we're able to do so much.
Yeah, I mean, I find beauty in everything now. It can be the way a basket is woven, and it just reminds me of a pattern that maybe I want to apply, over here. But I will definitely say I am more creative when I am surrounded by creatives. And so the people who I know and who are in my close circle are smart, creative people that I know that I can sit down and talk to and say, I've got to get something done and I'm hitting a wall. And literally 15 minutes later, I have like a bevy of ideas, and it just bounces one after another. But definitely, I'm looking online, I'm listening to music, I'm listening to a podcast. I literally extract creativity from everywhere.
I love that. And then my last question is, any advice for somebody who is looking to get into the industry, your industry?
So meaning get into the industry in what way? Like exhibiting at a trade show or working with people, or
working with, like, for the people that want to work, or the young entrepreneurs that want to work with a large trade show, and because you kind of have like the dream job, like you have like the best of the best part of the job. Like, so what is any advice you would give somebody looking to get, or trying to create a position like yours?
So, frankly, I'll just put it out into the universe. My goal is to create a much larger relations department within Emerald. Because I think you and I and everybody listening, we all know that it's about the relationship. We're in an industry built on relationships, whether it started with a handshake back in the day, or you are, knee deep into contracts here. It is about the communication. It is about meeting somebody who you want to do business with, and then, understanding how that said product or story or whatever the item is, how that is going to align with your goals and your mission. There are so many people and so many creatives out there that need help, and a trade show can literally, as you can, like, it could chew you up. It is humongous. You can get lost. There's so many things that can come at you that you just weren't prepared for because you didn't ask the questions. So I have people who come to me all the time, and I definitely give some information, but I direct them to people who do this for a living. The best advice I can give anybody and everybody is do your homework. And when you think that you've done it, do more, because you need to talk to people who are in the industry, who are doing what you want to do. So if you want to sell at a trade show, definitely align with somebody in a trade show. Reach out to me. You can get through to me on Instagram at amy.atnynow. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on the New York Now website under the relations team page. Reach out and I'll assist you. I'll help you. But you have to do your homework. You have to understand how a buyer buys. You have to understand what goes into setting up your booth and what the dynamics are in stepping into the Javits Center to set up a booth. But then how are you setting it up so you're going to attract the buyer? What's the marketing that you're doing beforehand? Are you doing any marketing beforehand? Guess what, guys? A trade show is about bringing a buyer and a brand under one roof. We want them to connect. I do what I can to help them connect. We market, we have tools, but it is your job to connect. That is what your role is. And I think that sometimes it's the marketing aspect, the self-marketing that people don't do prior to a market, especially a newbie who doesn't understand that. And you have to do your due diligence and reach out to the buyers. You have to do your post-market reach out. Thank you. It was so great to meet you. Every single person in there is a connection and an opportunity. So I think I could ramble about this forever, but ultimately, if you hear anything, it's about do your homework. And when you think you know, you don't know. You have to double that. There are so many opportunities, great opportunities to be seen and to meet people at a trade show. If you are not working in your healthiest manner, you're going to lose all those wonderful opportunities. And then it just becomes, I spent money for this. And the trade show shouldn't be, it's expensive. So it shouldn't be about the money. It should be, I did this. I went into it, the smartest way possible. I met people, I followed up, and I'm growing my business. And what do I do next? That is my best advice.
That is phenomenal advice. That is, it's funny. I kind of forgot about asking it because I get so into the conversation, and then I'd walk away going, oh, I've forgotten. So I'm circling, and I realized that is probably my favorite part of the interview. And it always is the best piece of information out of the best nuggets ever. And that was phenomenal. Thank you so much. Like I said,
so welcome.
It's taken a day for us to get together, and I am so grateful for your time because I know you're 16 days away from New York Now starting. So thank you so much.
You are very welcome. And I just need to say thank you. I think you are phenomenal. I'm so glad that Barbara Mooney connected us. Daisy Mercantile out in Alameda. We love her.
Really our biggest fan. And I absolutely love her.
Absolutely. But I love what you do. Keep rocking it. You do amazing work. I love following you. And I am so happy that I get to call you friend. One of these days, we will be face to face and we'll make it happen.
Yes.